Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another live here with me, Ed Cooper. I hope you are well. So we are talking all about business planning in June. So everything to do with planning, we're going to give you hints and tips and structure and everything that you actually need to get yourself moving forward. This is about making sure you've got crystal clear clarity about where you're going, where you're taking the business, and then being able to implement that easily so that you get better results than if you didn't have a plan. Remember, well over 90% of business owners do not write things down and in a plan. And yet the top 2% of business owners in the world sit down regularly every quarter and build a plan. So there you go. So there's the stats that at least will help drive you towards that if you're not already doing it. It's okay having something up here, particularly if you're doing something on your own. You might just get by, but you know what? You get so much more clarity and you get so much more effectiveness out of a plan that's written down, stuck up, nice and visual. And I'm going to take you through some tips. So last session we had. We were looking at the 5-year plan. Okay, so a 5-year plan that we forecast where we wanted to go. And one of the things that we were doing in that, we were thinking big. You've got to think big. You've got to think, actually, what would be my big, hairy, audacious goal if I could just grab hold of it, shooting for the stars, and just going for it. Okay, so look, this is a 5-year forecast. It's like looking at the weather forecast. And if you looked at the weather forecast at the weekend, just kept changing all the time. And things do change. The seasons of the economy change. The winds of things that are thrown at us politically and economically change. So we do have to change our plans with it. But intention is key to vision and driving you forward to where you want to be. So the 5-year plan was there, and we were thinking really big with that. And then we started to bring that 5-year plan down into an 18-month plan. We weren't interested at this stage in how, but we were interested in what. So we were interested in what you wanted to do, not necessarily how you're going to do it yet. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. Just going to say good morning to Mr. Gunn. Good morning, Chris. Good to see you. Happy Ocean Day to you too. Let's all look after our oceans, right? Maybe that is part of your plan, Chris. Your big, bold, and hairy, audacious goal to save our oceans. So this is the first tip, actually. This thinking big piece. Now, the first 2 tips that I'm going to give you today are in contrast with one another. Okay, but that's okay, because what we get when we get contrast is we can get balance, right? And that's what we're after balance. So a lot of the time when I'm talking to business owners, as I'm coaching them through the plan, I'll be stretching their thinking, stretching their goals. I want them to move away from a feeling of this is going to be easy and safe and everything's going to be absolutely dead simple moving forward. And I want them to feel like a little bit uncomfortable. I want them to feel in their bellies like, oh, this is tough. Yeah, this one's going to be a really big one. If we can achieve this, then that's going to be amazing. Yet at the same time, I want them to believe in it. And there's a fine balance between those two things. Think big. Think too big, it can be overwhelming. It can actually freeze people. It means that they'll walk away from it. Think too small, it doesn't mean anything either. It's like it's too easy, it's too simple. It doesn't give you impetus or drive or determination to achieve. So think big. Whatever your big is, that would be one of my tips with that. So linked to that, and you probably guessed this, right, as a tip, is be realistic. You've got to think big, but be realistic. Like if you want to be a millionaire in the next 12 weeks, like that might not be realistic. Might be for some of you, but it might not be realistic given, let's say you have a turnover currently of £20,000 a year, right? Might not be realistic, but we need to put this next to your plan, because as a coach, what I'll be doing is I'll be looking at the detail, the numbers, the plan, the rollout of the team, the strategic marketing plans, and so on and so forth. And I'll be asking questions about that to ensure that the plan is realistic. Now, what happens when you think big and you get realistic? Well, those two things coming together when you've got reality of a real life bringing together of those two things is that you start to believe. And when you belief is key to any plan, because then you get things done, you move things forward, you get excited about your plan as well. So think big, be realistic. They're two of my 7 tips today. Next one is like, be creative, right? So, and I'm going to pull this into 2 sections. Okay. So number 1 is be creative about your planning. So what do I mean by that? Well, I'll give you, as a coach, I'll give you structure and templates and tools to use. But actually, there's no reason why you can't bring in your own creativity. Like, why can't you use your own personal flair for your plan, as long as it means something to you? Now, that might mean, you're cutting up magazines and pictures that mean something to you for that plan. It might be that where you're going to put it up in your office, it's going to look a little bit different. You might choose to create some artwork rather than just put a plan up on the wall. So think creatively in terms of building the plan. But secondly, think creative in terms of how you solve the problem to achieve the plan as well. We can't expect to get the same results over and over again by doing the same things. I think it was Einstein who said that. The one definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So get creative in how you solve problems. Get creative with the team in bringing them together and involving them in the planning and involving them in solving the problems and getting creative about how you might do that. That creativity can break through brick walls, and those brick walls can be the things that's stopping you from getting from where you are to the success that you want. So get creative and bring in your mentor, bring in a coach, bring in your team, bring in your family, and talk to them about what you're doing so that they can help be more creative and inject that into the conversation as well. So we've got crystal clear clarity by thinking big. We're going to get realistic with that. So we've got the balance. We're going to get creative as well, because there's going to be some problems like, you've not done this yet, right? So this plan, you've not done this yet. So therefore, we have to think differently. Would you agree, so that we can achieve this? Linked to creativity in some ways, but this is about getting visual. There is nothing better than having your plan up on the wall so that you and your team can see it. Having your 5-year vision orbit framed on the wall, branded with all the numbers on there that you're going to head towards, and seeing that every day does something to our brains, and it does something to our beliefs and our values system that drives us forward. Making sure that we are going back to that plan every single day and figuring out what we need to do and whether we've done it, and ticking stuff off the plan is incredibly empowering for building momentum into your delivery and your results. Having it so that your team can see it shows your intention, and it shows your discipline and focus within that. It shows that you're not kidding around, right? It shows that you're serious. And when I go into my clients' offices, when they have that big plan up on the wall, and I can see the notes, the post-it notes, the detail that's on there, and they're kind of ticking it off as they go along. And I ask them, I was like, how does your team react to this? They go, they absolutely love it, because they know exactly where we're going. And I think that just brings it home for me. Get visual with your plan. Equally, when you're looking at your life goals, so last time we spoke, we were talking about the 5-year vision for your business. And we started at the point of you. You are the biggest reason you are in business. You're in business to give you more life. And we want you to have some great life goals so that you can achieve everything that you want to achieve. So getting visual with your life goals is also really key to this. Having a dream board, I mentioned it last session, being able to put that up, again, cutting pictures out of things that represent what you want: a car, a house, a holiday, more time with the family, giving back to charity, or giving back to the world in a different way. Whatever it is for you that you want to do, get it up, get it put on your desk so that people can see it, you can see it, and it's a reminder of why you're doing what you're doing day in and day out. So getting visual, really, really important as well. As you're going through your plan, and you might choose to do this before or as you are building your plan, research your market. Like if you've been on Dragon's Den, or you've seen Dragon's Den, then you will understand that the questions that come from the dragons to the people who are pitching is partially around what's happening in the marketplace. Is this needed? What are the competitors doing? How are they positioning it in the market? Is there an opportunity and a space for this? What are the threats that are coming from the marketplace that might mean that this idea is going to be obsolete in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? There was a I remember now from Dragon's Den a few years ago, there was someone who had a parking app that linked to shops that gave people points for parking, and then they got money off at particular shops. Great idea. But one of the dragons, I think it was Peter, said, actually, that's not going to work, because what people are doing is they're moving their car parks over to automated vehicle license identification systems. And therefore it kind of doesn't bring it together. So he was out on that basis because the market research suggested that wouldn't work. Whether he's right or not, I don't know. Guy might have the best idea in the world, but that piece of market research was enough for Peter to say, I'm out. So do your market research as well. Figure out what your proposition, once you've got your proposition, what are your strengths of that proposition? What are your weaknesses of that proposition? What opportunities are out there that can help you get innovative and maybe create something slightly different as a proposition? And what are the threats? What are the threats coming, politically, economically, socially, technologically, from a legislative perspective, or even environmentally, of course? So you've got to think about all those things. And those two models, have got the SWOT model, but you've also got the PESTLE model, PESTLE, which is the political, economic, social, legislative, technological, and economic. Probably spelled that wrong there, but PESTLE and SWOT. Just Google them and look them up and do those things to help give you a little bit more focus around researching your marketplace. Last month we did sales. The month before on these lives we did marketing. Marketing and figuring out your avatar, your ideal customer. This was part of it. Okay, so we're going back round the circle in some respects here. So if you want to know more about identifying your key target market, go and watch 2 months ago the lives that we did then. Linked to identifying and researching your market is identifying your competitors who are around you. Let's say you're a plumber. There are lots of plumbers around, but who truly is your competitor? Well, there are layers of this. Okay, so number one is direct competitors. So if you're a plumber and there are other plumbing businesses around, they're competitors of yours. Absolutely makes sense, right? But also there are other people out there that are your competitors. And in the broadest sense, everyone who's in business is your competitor. But from a point of understanding what they're doing really well, and seeing if you can take that information and make it of use to you. If you see people as competitors, then you will look strategically differently at them to learn, to open your mind to new things and new ideas and new ways of doing things. But as a minimum, if you're not identifying your direct competitors in your marketplace, understanding what they are doing differently, how they're priced, what value they're adding, what service they're providing, and so on and so forth, what target market they're focused on, then you are doing yourself a disservice. because there is huge opportunity, knowing what your competitors are doing, to be able to zig away from their zag, right? So being able to move yourself in the marketplace and differentiate yourself in the marketplace. So therefore now you're not competing on price, you're competing on adding value and service in the industry that you work in. All right, so identify your competitors and make sure that within that, maybe that's part of your plan. Maybe part of your plan is, look, I just need to go and do some market research. I need to go and identify my competitors and look at their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. In that respect, are my competitors a threat to me? Their size, their pricing, and so on and so forth. So that's really, really key as well. One of the things, this next part that I'm going to go on to is, not always, but I would say 80%, 80 to 85% of the time, is one of the areas of people in business that they know they are the weakest on. And they know they need the most support on, and they know they should do, but don't. They maybe rely on other people to help them do this. And that is finances. It's like understanding your break even point, your break even plus profit, your margins, your gross margin, your net margins, understanding what month of the year you will become profitable, understanding your cash flow in the business. Do you have a cash gap? How does that affect your business? Where can you close or reduce that cash gap? How much finance and support do you need from your bank to ensure that that cash gap is closed? And forecasting from the from where you are now into those 12 months, 18 months, 5 years down the line. So one of my clients, he always talks about his mission numbers. So he has his 5-year plan of everything that he puts in place. So his income, his expenditure, and as he grows his team, and that's based on the 5-year vision orbit that we did last session. And it's a really good way, again, to ensure that you're sensor checking, your litmus testing, you're making sure that you are being realistic with your plan, so that your finances and your plan kind of add up. And again, it builds belief, it builds strength in your mind that you can deliver what you are setting out to do. So one of the things that I will do with business owners is I'll sit down and work with them on their cash flow forecast based on their plan. And then we will look at where there's a problem, where there's an issue, where we need to inject cash into the business, where we might need to get a loan, where we might need to look at our terms of payment in a different way, for example. So numbers don't lie, and they give us a really good insight. But getting those right before you set off, it's a little bit like making sure you've got enough fuel in the car before you go on your journey, right? So getting your finances right is really, really key. If you don't know how to do that, if that's an area where you think, yeah, do you know what, I need to do that a little bit more, I can absolutely help you with that. So we've done the 7, all right, already. So we've done think big, get bright, get bold, and really go for it. Leap for the stars. You won't come up with a pile of mud. You might not reach the stars, but you won't come up with a pile of mud. Just think big and go for it. But as balance, our life needs balance. Be realistic. Overstretch yourself, you won't do it. You'll just give in and walk away. Don't do enough, you'll have apathy. You'll give in and won't do that either. So be realistic and make that process fun. Get creative. The more creative you are with your plan, the more engaged you will be. The more emotion you will connect to your plan. When you connect emotion to logic as a plan, then magical things can happen. Yeah, anyone can build a plan, stick it on the wall and ignore it. But if you believe in that, if you've got emotion connected to that, wow, and that's something else. It's a different level. Get visual, get it up, get it bright, get it bold, get it seen every day. Check it out, make sure that your team see it as well. And then researching your market. Make sure you are researching in the areas that you're working in and outside of those. What is happening in your marketplace right now? Do your SWOT analysis, SWOT, and do your PESTLE as well, PESTLE. Then identify your competitors. making sure that you understand what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, where their price position, what service they're adding, what value they're adding, so on and so forth. Differentiate yourself, zig to their zag. Go and make sure that you position yourself really, really strongly in the market, and then get your finances right. Once you've done all of that, then you've got your basis of that plan. So we've gone from the structure last session where we talked about the 5-year plan, and then we went around the orbit with turnover, staff, sales and marketing, and then customers. But now what we're doing is that we're putting some of these tips in place so that you can hone that plan. You can really focus and make sure that it feels like a great plan that you want to implement and would love to achieve. So once you've done it, this is the thing: is share it and seek feedback. Give it to your team, give it to your partner, give it to your coach. Share it with them and get feedback, get input, get understanding. Some people are guaranteed to ask you questions that you have never thought about. They're also guaranteed to challenge you on some of the things you've put in there so that you do ensure you're stretching but realistic. So some people are going to say, wow, you're only going to do that? I think you could do more. Other people are going to say, wow, you're going to do that? Do you want to just turn that down because this is going to be effect if you don't? Some people are going to love what you do, be absolutely bought in and highly motivated by it, and encourage you to go for it. And when you've got someone who's on your side in your court, that momentum can be immense to actually achieving something fantastic out there. So do share and seek feedback from people. The plan is the plan, right? The goals that you set are the thing that you are going to head for. The goals do not change, but how you get there may well change given the seasons and the winds that are thrown at you. Nobody knew what was going to happen to just over 2 years ago, right? So but we have to change. The goals doesn't change. I still want to achieve what I set out to achieve in business, but I'm going to have to adapt and change my way. My plan's going to have to shift and change to ensure that it's realistic against what's happening right now. So what's happening right now for you in your business? We've got increasing prices. We've still got disruption from a supply chain perspective. We've got other things coming up on the horizon that we can see in terms of price rises, fuel rises, and so on and so forth. We just had wage rises in April. So things are changing constantly. That is the only constant change. So we have to keep constantly looking at and refining and getting feedback and looking at our plan as we move along too. So that's it. I just want you to take those tips and then place them into the plan that we were looking at last time, the 5-year and the 18-month plan. Next session, we're going to break it down even further. We're going to go into the 90-day plan. We're going to take some of these principles and tips, and we're going to get a little bit more detailed. We're going to drill down just that little bit more. We're going to shift from what you want to do to how you're going to do it within your plan. That's it from me. Have an amazing rest of the week. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you Wednesday next week, which will be the 15th, 9:30, live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.